Here inside the stock exchange, up to 17 different broadcasters, depending on the time of day, ranging from China through Europe to the USA, have their stand-up positions. Some are up here on the balcony, others are down on the trading floor, and I've been tasked by one of these broadcasters to light their position. We're going to do it with the ABC of lighting. We're going to assess the situation, block out the acting, and then consider our options. But first, let's have a look at what's available to us in this particular location. The task is to provide lighting for a presenter here on the trading floor such that he or she looks good and yet still remains in contact with the background. By that I mean that they don't stand out from the location, giving the impression that we're using a blue screen or chroma key. We have the advantage that the presenter is in a fixed position, a fixed target, and doesn't do any walking and talking. However, we've also got to consider the use of an auto cue. This could mean extra lighting to allow for the fact that the auto cue can take as much as one stop away from what we've got to work with. As you can see, the majority of light is coming from above. It's very soft, but it's very toppy. Certainly enough of it. My light meter is showing 400 lux. That would be about f2.8 on the cameras we're using, even allowing for the teleprompter. The colour temperature here is 3,400 degrees Kelvin with a very slight hint of green, but not enough to cause us any problems. The nearest standard tubes are 3,200 degrees Kelvin or tungsten. I'm going to go for those because although they're very slightly warmer than the ambient lighting, what they will do is they will slightly warm up the skin tones and make the presenter look better. There are a number of different presenters. So I want to provide a general one-size-fits-all type of lighting and yet still enable it to be tweaked for each individual. Some of the presenters are a little bit older, so I want to flatter them without providing bland lighting. I mentioned the auto cue, which in itself brings problems. If you've got a hard source near to the auto cue, it shines in the eyes and can create spots, the same as if you look into the sun. This obviously makes it very difficult for the presenter to read the auto cue. To avoid that, I want to go for a larger source which takes away that risk of the spots in front of the eyes. The lights are also going to be set by different cameramen, so I want it to be easily set up and not a great tragedy if they don't get the lights in exactly the same position each time. In my experience, the best solution is to use soft lights. This means that the shadows are softer so that lines on the face don't stand out so much. In the past it wasn't a problem, the presenter simply put on more makeup, but with high definition that's no longer an option. So we can help them a bit with a soft light source. Because the area is much larger, it means that it gives as much light as a hard source, but without this point of light which burns into the eyeball and leaves spots. It makes it much more pleasant for the presenter, a much more enjoyable experience. I've gone for the ICE units from the Italian firm Ianiro as the solution to this problem. The units need to be solid, they need to be reliable. They're going to be in use 10 times a day, each day, every day, by different cameramen, some of whom aren't exactly delicate with how they use equipment. The other advantage with these units is they have a digital dimmer, which means that I can decide what settings that each light should have, and the cameraman simply has to dial it in. They also have DMX, so if at any time in the future the broadcaster decides that they're going to remotely control the lights, they can do so without any problems. Another reason for me going for the Ianiros was that I wanted this large area provided by the reflecting barn doors. I wanted the light to be soft and diffuse, yet still directional. In order to diffuse the light even more, what I've done is I've put a very light frost behind the honeycomb. The traders' computer screens are about at the same height as our lights. This means that they could end up with a source right in their eye line, making it very uncomfortable for them to work. To avoid this, we use honeycombs which narrow the beam and affect less people than simply letting the light spread out. I've chosen the 60-degree honeycomb because it's wide enough to cover a head-to-foot shot but still doesn't shoot off to the side. This is another reason why I went for the Ianiro ICE units, the ICE units, as they're enclosed and don't have light leaks at the sides, and also that the honeycomb is at the front of the unit, giving the largest area for a soft source. Most presenters look good when the lights are at about 25 to 30 degrees from the horizontal. Here I've set the lights a lot lower. There are two reasons for that. Firstly, the ambient light here is very toppy, and I don't want to compound the problem by having my lights high. Secondly, by lowering the lights slightly, what I'm doing, I'm filling the shadows in slightly. Because this ground is very dark brown, we need a little bit of fill to come from beneath, and by having the lights slower, it actually aids us to fill in those shadows. With some presenters who have glasses, you've got to be very careful of the reflections. Larger light sources mean larger reflections, but because the light source is that much lighter, it doesn't stand out quite so much as a sharp point. If the reflection's a problem, easy. Just raise the light sources or move them out to the side. Make sure you get the presenter to move his head so you can see exactly what happened. And that's basically it. So, with that, back to the studio.